There's Georgia. Hi, Georgia.
Hello. Sorry, I had some trouble getting in, but I'm here.
You're all right. Yeah, I see a few familiar faces and names. Okay, just give it another minute. Looks like a few people are joining us now. Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Pamela. There's Ronald and Bari. Hi. You know what I love about the Zoom is I'm putting names with faces. Like, oh, I know what you look like now. All right. Well, welcome again. Thank you for joining us today. Today is our last in our series for the ICF Coaching Week celebration, The Path Forward. Before we get started, I just want to have a quick reminder for our coaches that are joining us today. And we do have our monthly meeting tomorrow. It's at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time, where we will have Linda Secretan, a professional certified coach, discuss the ICF's updated code of ethics, if you guys haven't seen that. Don't forget, you can earn a full hour of an ICF continuing education unit. Please visit our website, icfhighcountry.org, to register for that event. All right. Okay, so as for today, we have our coaches Janice Lung and Georgia Anderson joining us, who will discuss how to calm your mind to lay a foundation for beneficial habits, especially as society continues in and emerges from quarantine and back into the world, and every state is different. So this will be super helpful to have these habitual foundations for all of us. First up, we'll have Georgia Anderson. She specializes in present-based leadership coaching, focusing on relationships at home and at work. She's also a Gottman-trained educator and a board-certified massage therapist. She founded KnowHowMom.com in 2015 after decades of educating families. She coaches and teaches simple skills anyone can master to promote strong relationships and personal flourishing. Georgia lives in Salt Lake City with her husband and is a proud spoiler of 13 grandkids. After that, we'll have Dr. Janice Lung, who is the owner of Be Well LLC and a life, health, and wellness coach here in the Treasure Valley, Idaho. She is on a mission to help individuals, organizations, and communities become healthy, happy, and productive. Since 2009, she has helped hundreds of individuals define, design, and create their own brand of well-being. So thank you both for being here and being a part of this webinar, The Path Forward to Your Well-Being. So Georgia, if you could take it away, we'll get started.
Great. Thank you. Going to share my screen here. All right. And move a few things so I can see. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I consider it a total privilege to be a coach and to be here and to help my clients as they create meaning they were meant to have in relationships and in life. I think our peace of mind has a lot to do with our health and wellness, and today that's what I'd like to focus on. I coach mostly around relationships and personal flourishing using somatics, meaning the body, as a vehicle for transformation. And I want to share with you today some tools for self-compassion based on the research of Dr. Kristen Neff and others. We know from her research that self-compassion creates a fantastic foundation for resilience, emotional intelligence, and positive change, which has so much to do with making our path forward, finding out and discovering where we are, and then moving forward in a positive way. Also today, I'm going to be using some slides that contain the artwork of Caitlin Connolly, who explores relationships with self and others in her work. I'm so grateful to her for granting me permission to use some of these pieces. I think they speak powerfully. I hope they do to you as well as they do to me. And I will do a combination of teaching and coaching, kind of a group coaching today. And so I would love it, if possible, if you would involve yourself in the chat, turn on your video if you'd like, or at least utilize the chat, especially as we proceed. I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here to tell you how to fix yourself. My commitment to you today is to share simple ideas, tools, and have some experiences together that can open your heart and encourage you to thrive, even in difficult times. I also want this to be a very safe place. So if anything becomes too much, please tend to yourself. Take a break mentally or physically. Stand up, get a drink, stretch, take a deep breath, whatever you need to feel comfortable here. So a story first. A few months back, in a day when we milled casually around the grocery store, I witnessed a scenario that's common probably to all of us. This frazzled child, red-faced, tired, throwing a tantrum, begging a parent for a toy or a treat, I really don't know which. I passed and I nodded knowingly, kind of hoping to give the parent reassurance that we've all been there. Then a few aisles later, we passed each other again, but the situation had changed. Now the parent was red-faced and kind of tantruming and threatening the child with all kinds of action if they didn't stop misbehaving. The child's demeanor had also changed. They were a little bit afraid, but they were still tantruming. My heart started to race, blood rushed to my face. Part of me wanted to look away and ignore the situation so I didn't embarrass them. And another part of me wanted to sweep that child up in my arms in order to give them some distance so the parent could calm down. Having raised 4 children myself, it was easy to have compassion for the parent when the child was tantruming. And having been a child myself, compassion also came easily for them when the parent was losing control. So I hope maybe you can visualize this scenario, or having seen something similar to this scenario. Have you felt similar feelings when you saw another person experiencing discomfort or pain? And if you would, write in the chat right now something that you think that child might have needed under those circumstances. And I'm hoping that while I share my screen, I will be able to see the chat. If not, I may have to get Stephanie to read some of the responses to me. Stephanie, are you seeing anything in the chat? Would you read some of the responses?
Sure. Personally, my son didn't need to be in the store. He needed a nap, or he was hungry or tired. Another person said to have attention, to be held, comforted, a smile, a laugh, a redirect, sleep, hug, comfort, love.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to try turning this, maybe I'll be able to see the chat if I do this. Okay, great. Thank you for those responses. So your answers show you knew really well what that child needed in difficult times. The single most important tool we have in dealing with difficult times revolves around compassion, or being kind. This applies not only to others, but to ourselves. Self-compassion is different than self-esteem. Self-esteem usually includes some sort of comparison or judgment. Self-compassion is also different than numbing your feelings, which is behavior or attitudes used to bury or hide your pain. Self-compassion is simply this. It's treating yourself with the same kindness, support, and care you would show to a really good friend. Anyone can learn these skills because they already have them by the way they care for others. We just need permission to treat ourselves in the same way. It's learnable. It just takes practice. So join me now in taking a big, slow, deep breath. Clear down to your toes. And exhale. I want you to watch a movie in your mind. Imagine you are witnessing someone showing compassion to someone else or something else in the face of difficulty. A child, a pet, a friend. This could take place anywhere, in home, in a school, outdoors. And as you watch this movie of showing someone show compassion to someone else, Notice what's happening in your physical body as you see this scenario and watch it play out. What happens to your heart rate, your breath, your muscle tone? And go ahead and write that in the chat, what you notice happening. And again, Stephanie, I can't see the chat when I'm sharing my screen, it looks like. So if you wouldn't mind sharing those.
Relaxation, calming, breathing is slowing, peace, peaceful state.
Great.
Acceptance, calm, slow breathing.
Great. So as you notice what the other participants have shared, generally, would you agree with me that the answers are all signs of good health? These physiological responses to compassion are beneficial to our health. And they're also beneficial to someone who's going through something difficult, helping them maintain their health in a difficult time. There's a reason that healthcare and service industries have such high turnover, and same thing happens with parents and caregivers. They get burned out. When we hold a lot of care and pain for other people, we eventually burn out if we can't also replenish and care for ourselves. During the last few months, during this pandemic, caretaking may have amplified in your home or your relationships, or even as you experience personal anxiety and change and the environment of your business changing, this can become incredibly important. As human beings, we are born both resilient and fragile. In the chat, I want you to share how a baby is fragile. And Stephanie, as you see those coming in, if you'd share them.
Did you say how a baby is fragile? Is that what you said?
Yes. Yes. In what way is a baby fragile?
Can't care for their own needs, can't feed without help. A baby must rely on a responsible adult 100% of its care, new to the world, dependent on others. They don't know how to take care of themselves.
Yeah. Great. Oh, I found a way to see the chat. Okay, I've got it.
You got it? Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you. Great. Thanks for those answers. So a baby needs its caregivers to do almost everything in order to survive. But babies are also incredibly resilient. For years, I volunteered as a birth doula at my local hospital, and I witnessed dozens and dozens of births under various conditions. Each time a baby was born, I was in awe of how it could make its way through the birth canal, enduring the tremendous pressure of contractions, or surgery if that was the case. And that's just for starters. I have seen resilient babies overloved by their younger siblings, patient with parents who are finding their way in childcare and teaching, so many ways, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, a baby is resilient. So now in the chat, would you share how you see a baby as resilient? And you can take that up to toddlerhood. Okay, so how do you see a baby as resilient? They're spongy and springy, yes. They're curious, they're persistent. They can survive even the least attentive parent. They know how to get attention. They know how to cry, right, for what they need. Yes, okay. They give themselves lots of space, right? They're not afraid of expressing how they feel. Right? They don't know any different. They don't have any assumptions about life. They just go for it. I love it. Okay, so we humans are a mix of these things. We are a mix of fragile and resilient. By learning to infuse ourselves with healthy doses of self-compassion, we can boost our immunity, become more resilient when things don't go our way, and really learn to make choices and take the kind of action that will really help instead of reacting in a negative way. And not only that, we can be, as we are learning to be more loving and compassionate with ourselves, we will have more of that to give to others. It's like putting your own oxygen mask on first. So this is a scary and valuable time for most of us to recognize the resilient and fragile parts of us and to know where those parts are in relation to our fears or anxiety. Even in the face of uncertainty, which is something I think all of us are experiencing, it's possible to hold really gently and kindly to those parts of us. It may not be leading to perfect health or even smooth sailing, but I believe through my own personal experience, as well as by learning the research, it's better to face challenges with courage and clarity and confidence than to lead with my scared, disassociated, or impulsive habits. So the more of my whole self I can bring to any challenge or crisis, the more I can learn from it. Kristen Neff has researched and developed tests for self-compassion. They're used worldwide. She divides the elements of healthy self-compassion into a few simple elements that we want to understand. The first one is to treat yourself like you would a friend. What do you do when your friend is struggling? Think of times you've been there for a friend. What kinds of thoughts? What tone of voice do you use? What kind of gestures do you use when they're going through something difficult? Can we do the same thing for ourselves? The second one is to invite common humanity. When I was learning and preparing to become a doula up at the university hospital, we were going through a training, and some of us were nervous right at the end of that training, what if we don't do the right thing? Or what if we, don't know all the techniques? What if we don't remember what will help the mother in the most in that situation? And we were put at ease by our instructor telling us about this study. This study said that when a woman was in labor, if she was told that there was another woman in the room who had been through the same thing and that she was going to be present with her, and even if they put a curtain between them and this woman was just in the room who had been through, someone who'd been through something similar, the labors were shorter, the deliveries were easier, and the recovery was faster. So just realize, this gave me so much reassurance, by the way, to go and do what I was trying to do. But just the realization that we're not alone, that everyone struggles as they go through something hard, can make our path seem simpler or easier to bear. Maybe not simpler. The third component of self-compassion is mindfulness, which means to be present with what's happening as it's happening. Emotions need motion. Motion is in the word emotion. Emotions need to move through us in order and not take us over. In order to allow them to pass, they need to be named and accepted. We need to practice being with our difficult emotions so that instead of emotions defining us, we can access our whole self, taking the steps we need to heal. So in a coaching scenario, we would practice a lot of mindful techniques and techniques for all three of these things to discover what works best for each client. In most psychological suffering, there's a component or a common denominator, and that is self-criticism, or being hard on ourselves. That might look like, why am I well when someone else is sick? Or I should have taken better care of my food storage, or I should have taken better care of my health, or why is this happening to me? All of those things can build up within us and cause us to put ourselves down, which is not going to give us the physiological responses we need in order to move forward. So it's natural when we feel unsafe to have that fight, flight, or freeze response. And when we have this danger surrounding us, we get stuck in those fearful parts sometimes, ruminating on the difficult things. And our brains think somehow that will keep us safe, when in reality, it does just the opposite. I have this painting, a print of this painting by Caitlin Connolly in my personal study. It's titled, "She Became Herself with Tears." I've experienced in my long life, now that I have lots of wisdom, that I cannot betray my pain. I can't ignore my grief. I need to wake up to become aware of what's happening inside my body and use those lessons, use that experience, and use that self-knowledge to make choices about what I want to have happen in my future. And coaching can help so much with that. So if I were working with a coaching client, we would first work on awareness, using the body as a guide to become more aware of our emotions and how we want to work with them. The next thing I would do is to do some exercises around common humanity. And then the last thing, again, would be following her advice. Sorry, that slide was just to show that we have all kinds of emotions at the same time. Would be bringing compassion to yourself. So to finish out today, I just want to lead you through a self-kindness meditation. Before I do that, I just want you to realize that self-compassion is a non-fixing practice. It's a presence-based practice. It's to see clearly and honestly what's currently happening inside, to make space for reality, to recognize we're not alone, and to hold it compassionately so that it can eventually transform us. There's no force needed. I'm going to play a little music here, and I hope it comes across not too crazy. Okay, we'll try to do this practice. Okay, to do this practice, I want you to put your hand on your heart and take some deep breaths. Take a moment to imagine the part of you that is suffering or having difficult feelings about your current situation, and let it reside in that space beneath your hand. Next, I want you to smile, both literally and figuratively, at your heart as it holds those feelings. Smile, whether it be overwhelm, grief, frustration, loss. It may be contentment, hope, or weariness. Whatever you're feeling, hold it there and give it a smile. See what you notice as you smile. See what happens under your hand. As we hold feelings as if they were a tiny child or a pet we love, we can gently transform our moments of pain and anxiety into experiences of love, connection, and peace. Because our emotions carry the same fragility and resilience as a newborn baby or a puppy. When you're ready, please join me in repeating in your mind these words. May I be safe. May I know peace. May I live my life with ease. And I apologize for cutting the music off really quickly. But this is my website and this is my Instagram handle. If any of you want to connect there, I would love to connect there. So you're welcome to write any questions in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead. I've taken my full time, so I'm going to stop my share. And I'm so excited to hear from Janice. So you can save your questions till the end. I think that we would prefer that. as you hear from both of us. And unless, Stephanie, unless you have something to say, we'll turn it over.
I don't see any questions coming in. And yeah, we'll have Janice Lung up next talking about, well, we've calmed the mind, so now we're moving on to building those habits.
Hello, everybody. I'm just sharing my screen quickly, I hope. Let's see. Let's see. Share my screen. It's been a while since I've done a PowerPoint on Zoom. Hi, everybody. And I'd like to thank the International Coaching Association High Country for celebrating Coaching Week with this webinar series. And I really want to thank Georgia for getting started with that wonderful presentation on self-compassion. And thanks everybody here for joining us today. So the theme for this week has been our path forward. And so I'd like to begin by asking you to consider your favorite path. Where is your favorite path? Maybe it's a path that leads you up a mountain. Maybe it takes you through a field of wildflowers, perhaps alongside our almighty oceans. Where's your favorite path? So for me, I live in Boise, Idaho. And my favorite path is the Boise Greenbelt that runs alongside our Boise River. It was along, or was at one point of this 25-mile greenbelt that I met my husband over 20 years ago. And it was through pieces and parts of this greenbelt that I trained for my first marathon in 2009. And to this day, it's still my favorite path, my favorite place to go to meditate in nature. So where is your favorite path? There's just something about a path, isn't there? First of all, if you think about it, paths don't just show up in places where we don't want to be. They're always in beautiful places. They might take us through an unexplored, a vibrant, fragrant forest. They might take us to places we've never been before, but we're curious to explore. They're wonderful places. And the second thing about paths is that they're always there. With few exceptions, paths don't go away. And so maybe we step off a path and we don't come back for maybe a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a couple of years, and the path is still there waiting for us, just as it always was before. Easy to get back on, easy to go forward. And paths are often a bit of a metaphor for health and well-being. We often hear phrases like, well, I'm getting back on my path to health. Or we hear, it's time to start etching my path forward to my optimal well-being. So just kind of works out well with the concept of health and well-being. And since I mentioned health and well-being, a couple things that I'd like to share with you about my ideas for health and well-being. And I'm guessing Georgia would agree with these wholeheartedly. First of all, health is that state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It's not just the absence of disease. It's complete balance. It's a wonderful state of well-being. Well-being is the presence of positive emotions and moods like contentment, happiness. Well-being is the absence of negative emotions like depression or anxiety. Well-being is satisfaction with life, with fulfillment and positive functioning. And wellness is this awesome journey, this conscious, self-directed, evolving process of achieving our own individual but full potential. I wonder if it would surprise you to learn that these 3 definitions come from the World Health Organization, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the National Wellness Institute. 3 objective, established, research-based, unbiased, scientific organizations. Pretty different, those 3 groups, but there's one thing that they all would agree on, and that's this. Your path to health and well-being, it's positive and affirming. And I'll just say that again. Your path toward health and well-being is positive and affirming. So I'm a health educator, and I've worked with too many to count. Students, individuals, professionals, leaders. And one of the things that I've seen them learn over and again is that the path to health doesn't have to be punishment. It can be positive. It can be joyful. The path to health feels good. It feels joyful and fulfilling. And not only does it feel good, it tastes good. It looks good, it sounds good, and it smells good. And here's another thing. As a health and wellness personal coach, I've worked with men and women both from all walks of life. And what I've seen them do is to set their own course, chart their own goals, and take their own steps towards creating their own fulfilled and optimal health and well-being for themselves. Seen them do it. They can do it with me or without me, but I've been lucky to be able to join them on this process. So I'll just ask you to consider your own path for just a moment. I asked you to consider your ideal path or your favorite path. So think for just a minute. How long has it been since you've been on your favorite path? Has it been a few months? Has it been a few years? Have you been pulled away from your favorite path due to life responsibilities, family, work, the daily grind? Also, have you been pulled off of your favorite path, maybe because of social distancing or self-isolation, a stay-at-home order? And what I'd like to do today is I'd like to invite you to return to that beautiful path, wherever it may be, that can lead you to your own health and well-being. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's waiting right there for you. And I'm going to offer you 5 foundational habits of well-being that you can integrate or return into your daily life that will bring you back onto your path towards health and well-being. And these 5 foundational habits are these. They start with a miracle morning. Continue by nourishing your body, moving with joy, resting self, and caring for self. And so I'm just going to explain a little bit about each one of these 5 foundational habits. I'll talk a little bit about how I integrate them into my own path towards well-being. And then I'll invite you to consider how you're already doing so in your life, or how you might do so in order to return to your own beautiful path towards your own beautiful, fulfilled, optimal well-being. Okay, so let's start with the miracle morning. Regardless of what time we wake up, we all have a morning. And we're not kids anymore. We don't generally tumble out of bed anymore, grab a couple of Pop-Tarts, pick up the backpack, and stomp out the door towards class or school or the playground. As adults, we have choice, and we can self-direct our mornings. And so more and more people are starting to think of this concept of a miracle morning. In fact, maybe you've heard of it yourself. And the idea being that you can plan how you start your day. You can wake up and you can have a morning that sets a beautiful foundation, a beautiful tone for your whole day. You plan it, you design it, and you choose what your morning miracle means for you. With some exceptions, miracle mornings tend to include things like hydration, nourishment, but also nourishment for our spirit and for our heart and our soul, things like a mindfulness or a grounding activity. Miracle mornings tend to include some form of prayer or affirmation, some form of stretching, and some routine, whether that includes a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, so on and so forth. The idea being you plan, you direct how you begin your day. And I'll tell you how mine goes. When I wake up in the morning, I lay in bed for just a moment and I think about what kind of a day I'd like to have for the day. And I think a real positive thought, kind of a self-empowering thought. And then when I step out of bed, I do so with positivity and optimism for the day. I brew my morning coffee. While it's brewing, I enjoy 2, not 1, not 3, pretty regimented, 2 glasses of water to rehydrate myself. And after my coffee has brewed, I take it into another room, my favorite room where I can see the changing seasons, and I do some simple, gentle stretching. I do some upper body stretches, do a couple of full body stretches, open up my back, open up my full spine. And as I'm doing so, I'm thinking thoughts of gratitude, and I'm saying prayers and asking for what it is that I'd like to receive for the day. And so my miracle mornings are pretty much a set routine, and they always start the way I want them to start. Usually my husband joins me and we share our coffee, our breakfast through the morning. And I can tell you, it's not a complicated morning. In fact, it doesn't even take any extra time for me personally. It's something I can do while he's still asleep. I just do my morning differently with intention. And so as a coach, then I'd like to invite you to consider, what is your ideal morning? And if you were to plan your own miracle morning, what would it include for you? What would you nourish? How would you wake up your body, your heart, your spirit, your mind? And how would you like to start the day with a positive tone of optimism, fulfillment, and well-being? Your 5 habits to well-being continue then with nourishment. And I'll tell you what, few things get more of a bad rap than nutrition. And we often associate nutrition with deprivation, with overwhelm, and with failed fad diets. But I have to tell you that nourishment for your body is anything but that. Nourishment for your body, just like health, feels good. It tastes good. It's a wonderful way to care for your own health and well-being and take you forward along your path to optimal well-being. So consider this. As you nourish your body, what proteins are you including that continue to keep your muscles strong so that your body can move and go and explore this wide, wonderful world? In what ways are you nourishing your body with complex carbohydrates to sustain you with energy throughout your exciting days and to take you where you want to go? In what ways are you integrating healthy, delicious, tasty fats that help your body to continue to function well and as it should? And then also, of course, what vitamins and minerals, diverse, plenty that come with the seasonal foods and all of the wonderful treats and delicious joys do you integrate to keep foods tasting, delightful, and celebrating the different seasons? And that is nourishment for your body. Nutrition in our household is pretty fun, I should say. And I'll begin by saying that breakfast in the morning is pretty routine for me. Summer and winter, I have almost the same nourishment every morning for breakfast, Monday through Friday. Our weekends are a little bit different, but Monday through Friday, I nourish my body every morning. Like I said, I start off with my 2 glasses of room temperature, delicious water. But I also integrate steel cut oats with blueberries or other berries, some fun trail mix. And when I cook my steel cut oats, I also add some yummy butter and cinnamon. And it's always a wonderful way that I nourish my body in the morning with good proteins, complex carbohydrates, delicious fats, and fun vitamins and minerals. Lunch for me is pretty consistent as well. And I have a mantra in my life that I never leave my house in the morning without knowing what it is that I'm going to eat for lunch. And I know that what I eat for lunch is going to nourish my body. And I guess this would be a good place to add the side note that this is given the days when I do leave my house for lunch. So I know I haven't really been doing that much lately, but it's the same rule of thumb for me. So most days, my lunch includes either a jar of a salad with delicious, healthy vegetables on top, or it includes, same thing, a jar of a crock pot that I've made over the weekend to get me through the week, of beans and different vegetables and different greens, and all things to make sure that I get delicious and healthy proteins, carbs, fats, vitamins, and minerals to sustain me throughout the afternoon. Dinners in our house are pretty fun too. And we usually enjoy the flavors and the meals, the dinners of the seasons. So we tend to cook some things that are, like I said, very seasonal, include a wide variety of different ingredients. Sometimes they're pretty spicy. Sometimes they just need a glass of red wine to help them go down, but they're always wonderful ways to end the day with emotional nourishment, social nourishment, even as we're getting wonderful nourishment for our bodies as well. So again, I'll just ask you, how are you nourishing your body? And in which ways is your path right now allowing you to nourish your body with delicious, healthy, joyful, seasonal foods, whole foods that love you back, build your muscles, sustain your energy, and keep your body moving and functioning well? So you can see that nourishing your body is simple. It's not complex, it's not complicated, and it's a wonderful habit that will keep you going along on your path to well-being. And so with the miracle morning and with nourishment for your body, your foundational habits continue on with joyful movement. And this is another area of health and well-being that get a pretty bad rap as well. For some reason, we tend to associate movement, physical activity with pain and with hardcore, rigid, competitive personal trainers that want us to sweat and want us to put our body into pain. And that just doesn't have to be the way that it is. And movement with joy starts with understanding what movement brings us joy. For some people, it is competition. For some people, it really is about pushing themselves harder today than they ever thought possible or than they did yesterday. For others, joyful movement is about getting out in the trails and out into the great outdoors. And so hiking and running and walking is really incredible for them. But joyful movement all starts with this awareness of what you enjoy doing yourself. And so I'll just ask you, what movement do you enjoy doing? And I'll let you know that for me, joyful movement changes a lot. For a long time, I was really into boot camp. I love boot camp. I loved working really hard for 55 minutes in the morning with my boot camp friends and knowing that by 10 a.m. I was completely done. I was spent, worn out, exhausted. And that served me really well for a few years in my life. There was also a period where I mentioned earlier, I trained for a marathon because a friend asked me to run a marathon with her. And in fact, my sister recently suggested the Las Vegas Rock and Roll Marathon is coming up in November. And I think few things sound as appealing to me right now as running for a really long time with my sister to music that I really enjoy. But right now, during this period, my joyful movement includes walking through neighborhoods that are nearby, but walking up hills, across trails, through neighborhoods where I can peek at the different landscapes and the different yards, and I can come back down into my own neighborhood and my own yard. And also right now, my joyful movement, in fact, some days it's more joyful than others, includes walking our 14-month-old, 65-pound Kelpie who needs to get out. So that's really an opportunity that I have every day to include plenty of opportunities to build my muscles, exercise my heart, stay limber and flexible, and stay active. Well, I'll just ask you now, what movement brings you joy? Is it gardening and landscaping? Is it working around your house? Is it being outside in the great outdoors? Is it just simply spending time with your favorite YouTube videos and exercising or working out in front of your television in your living room? Maybe it's spending time with new friends in walking groups or running groups or biking groups or preparing for upcoming competitions. Whatever joy you get right now from moving is what you can pursue. And I'll just invite you right now to consider, how would you like to get back on your path to optimal health and well-being through movement every day? Just give some thought to that. Again, your miracle morning, nourishing your body, moving with joy. And then your 5 foundational habits continue with rest. We all need rest. We're starting to hear much more lately about the importance of sleep. Our body needs sleep. Our mind, our brain needs sleep. And when we establish patterns, when we establish routines, and when we establish sleep hygiene, we never regret those steps that we take to give our body and our mind the rest and the rejuvenation that it needs every night, so that we're able to wake up the next morning to that miracle morning and for another wonderful day along our path. We're all familiar with the fact of how many hours of sleep we should get. And as we get older, it gets a little bit harder to take those hours of sleep, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours of sleep for granted. But we know that we need them. And so how can we establish patterns or routines or nightly habits that help us come down to a place where our body is able to sleep and to rest? For some people, that means that they turn off all electronics maybe 30 minutes, maybe 60 minutes before they go to bed. For some people, it includes a nightly ritual, like maybe a nightly bath or a shower. Sometimes even just washing our face and brushing our teeth, and just a little bit of daily self-care can bring us down and put us into that mode for sleep. For me personally, my recipe for nightly rest always starts with storybook time. I love to have a bed or a book right next to my bed where I can read that every night. And it's a positive book. It's a fiction. It's a novel. Something that's fun and that's really meaningful for me, of course, but not something that's heavy and gets me thinking about business plans or marketing or anything that I should be doing, but rather just something that is a story for me to enjoy. When I wake up in the middle of the night, as I do a little bit more frequently these days, I don't worry about being awake. I don't toss and turn and stress. I simply pull out my book. I reread my book until it lulls me right back to sleep. And I feel guilt-free about that. I don't stress about not being able to sleep. And I wake up in the morning knowing that I've done everything I can to get a great night's sleep. And of course, rest continues with what we do during our day to take a break from stress, and what we do in our life to take a break from our jobs and from our work. And so whatever that may be, whether it's a nap, whether it's a walk, whether it's a meditation, whether it's an hour in a hammock, or working out in the garden, in nature, whatever that daily ritual is for rest throughout the day, to simply take a break. And then whatever rituals that we have for taking holidays from our lives. And in our household and in my life or our lives, we're very intentional about building in holidays and vacations. And we pretty much plan out our vacations at the beginning of every year. We don't leave it up to chance. We intentionally design how we're going to get rest from our lives throughout the year through vacations and different holidays. And it's more important than ever right now that we take a break from the news, that we take a break from the worry, that we take a break from quarantining inside of our homes. So some of the extraordinary measures that we've taken in our lives right now to include rest is that we've built in Saturday day trips around Idaho. We're able to isolate within our car, shelter within, or go to a place where there's nobody else around, and able to take these fun hikes even as we're exploring Idaho. And it really gives us a wonderful rest from our daily grind right now of COVID-19. And so that's just one example of extreme measures for rest right now. But I'll ask you, what are you doing, and what could you be doing more of to build on that habit, that foundational habit for sleep and rest in your life? And how is that a part of your path towards your optimal well-being?
Hi, Janice. I apologize for interrupting, but we have about 5 minutes left to the hour. So if it's okay, I was hoping we could have some Q&A with our visitors today. And if you don't mind, do you have your contact information to show really quick, just in case folks want to follow up with you afterward?
Sounds.
Oh, I think it
I
broke.
absolutely do. And yeah. Thanks, Georgia, I'll go ahead and stop the share, but thank you for walking us through the self-care.
All right, so please feel free to chat your questions, or you can unmute yourself at this time and ask Georgia or Janice specifically. I had a question, Georgia, when it came to meditation. I mean, there were so many, this was wonderful comments right after that, little music and a little bit of meditation. Do you have like a favorite recording or podcast that you would recommend for our viewers today?
Wow, there are so many out there now. There's the Calm app. There's the Tapping Solution app. Any more that you know, Janice? There are so many. Trying to look on my phone right now, any that I have. Since I was a theater person and a massage therapist, I've learned to do a lot of my massage myself because that was my training. But oh, here we go. I use the Insight Timer app. Yeah, anyone share what you use there? There are so many helpful things out there right now. There are scripts you can buy. You know, I even am developing a couple that I'm going to share on my website for people for different scenarios. So there's a lot of help out there. So,
and I'll just add to that sometimes just 5 deep breaths in and 5 deep breaths out with an affirmation are really short, concise, and easy to integrate meditations.
Oh, great. Another question that came in, what happens if you can't do your morning routine every day?
Yeah, well, obviously it just becomes about doing it when you can. And then I'll just put in the extra reminder that a morning routine doesn't have to take extra time out. And so it's about how we intentionally use the time that we have to start our day off in a wonderful, optimistic, exciting, calming, grounding manner.
And Janice, do you have your information on a slide that you can share really quickly with the group?
I do, and I'm really sorry about that. Yes, I do. Should I share my screen, or should I just put it in the chat?
Oh, chat's probably easier, just so you can just copy and paste it for everybody.
Okay. Yeah, and certainly a quick Google search can get you to me for sure.
And then another question that came in, Janice, when you're done, are there any affirmations you suggest when you're taking those 5 deep breaths?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. You know, the simplest affirmation, I think, and by the way, Georgia offered a beautiful affirmation that I absolutely love. I'll offer the one, and then maybe Georgia can remind us. But one of my favorite affirmations is, every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. That's such a simple affirmation. And Georgia, I loved the affirmation that you offered.
Yes, this is one that has been offered a lot to me by other practitioners, but I use it often, and that's, may I be safe, may I know peace, may I live my life with ease. May I be safe, may I know peace, may I live my life with ease. That can be offered first to yourself, and then it's nice to offer that to someone you love, and taking a lot of time in between, and then finally offering that to someone you're having a challenging time with. So when you offer it to yourself first, it helps you lay that foundation, helps you ease in as you offer it to someone that's easy for you to communicate with, and then to offer it to someone who is challenging for you. I use that a lot with my clients.
Great. Well, we are at time at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, so we really appreciate you both being here and for closing out our Coaching Week celebration. It was excellent information, and I don't have everybody's email because the way we registered, I wasn't able to grab any of that, but this video replay will be available on our YouTube channel, so you can just search for ICF High Country, and you can see that the replay there. So again, thank you everybody. Thank you Georgia and Janice for speaking today. And again, we'll see you all tomorrow at our monthly program talking about ICF ethics updates. So have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.